Leah from Island Sun Tarot. In this video, we are going to be talking about decks that I use year-round. So in my autumn tarot decks video, I talked about how I was going to skip doing a winter video because a lot of my autumn decks I carry over into winter, which is totally true. But when I thought about doing this video for these decks, I really just wanted to talk about why I use these decks year-round. Not necessarily that they would be, well, I feel like they'd be good for everyone because I love them so much. I want everybody to love them. But I would like to see in the comments below decks that come to mind when you're watching this, just based on how they make you feel, or maybe it's just your go-to deck, and even something that's like the current favorite that you're just using for everything. So yeah, comment below what decks you're totally into right now. So this is a mix between some of my die-hard go-tos and then a few new ones have kind of edged in the mix because for years it was only a few of these, and we'll talk about them. But just as with any of my videos really, but really for this one, the disclaimer is everybody likes a different cup of tea, so take what you will, leave the rest, and let's look at some cards. So first we're going to talk about the original diehards, right? And these decks are year-round decks for me. A couple of them is because they express all of the seasons in the deck. And some of them is because we have such a long and deep relationship that when I use them, I don't want all the thought process of, oh, it's spring, I'm only working with these decks right now, which is how I normally do my tarot practice. However, last year was a little different, and so I think I'm just going to continue on with what I unintentionally did last year. And it started in March when I got the Druidcraft Tarot, and that just sort of took over my whole practice really. And some of the other decks that I was using mixed in with the Druidcraft, I was trying to mix in the other decks that I use for the season, but then also decks that I missed because I was spending so much time with the Druidcraft. So this year I'm going to continue with this sort of more laid back approach and not be so focused on the season and the decks that I bring out for the season. I'm just going to go with it. And I think that is perfect for this video, talking about decks that I use all year long, because I have a feeling it's going to be most of these for the year, peppered in with maybe something that's, ooh, pick me. But let's get started. So, of course, diehards right off the bat. We have the Fairy Tarot. Now it's just Riley Valentine. The art is by Howard David Johnson. So this is one of the decks that expresses all of the seasons, and so it makes it really easy to use all year long. You have everything going on, and each of the suits have been renamed after the seasons. So here we have summer instead of cups. The majors are all sort of this darker purple, and then we have winter for swords. Sorry, a couple more majors. Let's try and find all of the, here we go, 2 of autumn for pentacles. So you can see it's very themed to the season. It's so beautiful, and I think that because of that and how universal it is, you can really use it all year long. And I have an affinity definitely with the fairies. I really appreciate this deck. It's fun, can be very cheeky, but then also inspiring and uplifting too. So here we have spring, or wands. So yes, we have the Fairy Tarot, definitely a great one to use all year long, and then also for any type of reading too. I think that's a big thing for this one. People might think that this deck is floofy and maybe not serious, but it can be very serious. And I think the fairies, for me, can be very, very honest. Even though there can be a sense of playfulness about it, it's all in good fun. So there we have the Fairy Tarot. I'll show you the backs one more time. All right. Next, we have the Shadowscapes Tarot. So this one isn't necessarily by season, but due to how they depict the elements, you sort of get that seasonal feel. So here we have wands, we have the warmer kind of orange and yellow colors. Cups, a little bit more purple and blues. Pentacles, sort of more green and yellow. We have some majors here. And then wands, again, more warm colors. So besides the fact that I feel like the seasons are evenly depicted throughout all of these cards, this deck is also very universal. So detailed, lots of animals and plants. And so I think for a deck that you choose to use year-round through all the seasons, this gives you a lot to work with. And due to the fact that this is one of the decks that I've had the longest, I just have that familiarity with it, and sometimes I don't want all the drama. It feels like sometimes of trying to pick a deck. I just want to sit with the cards and chat without feeling like, oh, I should only pick from this stack because it's summer, autumn, whatever. That's another reason why I sort of want to do this year, to be a little bit more open and just free with it. And it definitely happened last year. It took over, mostly because of some decks that came into my collection, and it's just how it worked out, right? Okay. Shadowscapes. This is published by Llewellyn, and the artist is Stephanie Pumanlaw. Okay. Next, we have Crystal Visions. This is published by US Games. It's by Jennifer Galasso. So this is another one that depicts the seasons in each of the suits, which I really like. So you're getting everything tied in, right? Again, with the colors, kind of color coding for each of the suits. This is a very close RWS inspired deck. It's just more frilly. I love this hermit card. But I think this deck, here's a snowy one. Sorry, interrupted myself. For swords. So I think this deck has a lot to offer with the sort of fantasy world and realm that you're in. And even though I know I've shared many of these decks in my other seasonal videos, that was purely just what I was going to work with for that season and decks that stand out to me for the season. But a lot of them I do use year round, and this is definitely one of them. So I don't single this deck out to only be used in the spring, summer. This deck can be very comforting, but then also very straightforward when you need it. Almost strict. Like if it feels like you don't get something, it will remind you immediately the next time you use the deck. Even if you're just shuffling, sometimes it'll send out a flyer like, remember when we talked about this last time? Maybe you need reminded. Let's have a refresher conversation on that topic. And I appreciate that sort of concern. That sounds so silly. Yeah, it's like a level of concern, almost like a caring sort of vibe from it. It's silly to think that some other decks that I use, they feel a little bit more aloof. That sounds so silly to say, but it's true. So we have the Crystal Visions. I just absolutely love this deck, and I do use it year round and all the time. And again, with the other two, the first two that I mentioned, this is one of the die-hard decks that I've had for a very long time. So it's very easy to turn to it. There's no questioning, no wondering about the readings. It is what it is. And sometimes you just need that, right? Okay. This next one, it's like I want to kind of do, not in order, but like, sorry. We have the Animal Totem Tarot. I know I've talked about this deck a lot. And again, with the animals chosen for each card, it's just perfect to me. The intention is lovely. So we do have tons of different animals in different situations, different places of the world, in different seasons, with different things going on weather-wise. And that also makes it, I love this card, a wonderful deck to use year-round. Sorry, birds. I just love it. And I had gone through periods of time where I only used this deck and that was it. And I wouldn't use anything else. I was also on like a big animal deck kick where I didn't want to use a single deck that had a person in it. So this was it. So this is another one of the major die-hard decks. I'm so sorry. Fighting in the tree. But yes, this is one of the like inner circle decks. I can use it for, this is definitely a healing deck too. I mean, they all really are. Any tarot deck can be a healing deck for any person, depending on what you're healing from, right? But this one for me in particular. And so, again, with the more caring and nurturing, I know that seems to be sort of the theme. So, okay. Those, how many was that? 4. Those 4 were like the inner circle die-hard decks for a very, very long time. Now, I think it's been a few years now that I think about it. Time goes too fast. It's been a few years now. So then I have the Crow Tarot. This is published by US Games. It's created by M. Jane Coulinane. I always mispronounce, I'm so sorry. Here are the backs. So this deck kind of snuck in as an animal deck, but then also very RWS. And it gives you that consistency through all of the cards that make it very familiar quite quickly, at least for me. I got along with it very well, very fast. And that doesn't always happen for me. Normally I have to sit with decks for quite a while, and it takes time to establish a relationship, or a rapport, really. It's a rapport before it's a relationship, right? And this deck was so powerful, and it just really, really took a hold of me, and I found myself reaching for this deck a lot. And this was shortly after I went through my animal only phase where I didn't want a deck with any people in it. And again, totally universal. Any type of reading, it's just crows. Just crows. It's beautiful. And what's funny about this deck too is that it's not necessarily my style artwork that I would naturally be drawn to, but I saw this deck, I believe she had like when it was the indie version before it was picked up by US Games, but Kelly from the Truth and Story showed it on her channel, and I felt really drawn to it. And it took me until it was published by US Games to be like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. Because I already, at the time, I had the unicorn, the crystal unicorn tarot, and I didn't really use it that much. And I thought, oh, it's kind of like that, but all crows. I don't know if it'd be any different. Oh, I love this one. But really it was really different for me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, we have different places being represented, so it doesn't necessarily give you the feeling of a season or like any type of the year would be bad for this deck. No, it's just a die-hard deck for sure. One more. I love this one. Okay, so with the addition of this into the inner circle, that had been in for a while. And then this last year just really turned all that upside down. I feel like there was upheaval amongst the decks, right? And it all started with the Druidcraft. So like I mentioned earlier, I got this deck last year in March, and it really just was so powerful. And I feel like it was something that I'd been searching for a long time, or like I didn't know I needed. And I got it just sort of on a whim, like, you know what, I've been wanting to add that to my collection. What a fool. I can't believe I waited so long. So again, with the universal feeling of the different places that they're at, different seasons that are represented throughout the deck, and the different situations. And it's so lifelike. It really makes you feel like you know these people. Like you're with her, sitting there next to that river. You know, like, how do you not just feel summer turning into fall with this card? Again, I know I've said it before, but there's no other way to say it. It's just so earthy, so true. There is a beautiful balance in this deck with sort of these more sparse cards. But that balance is what makes this deck so useful for any type of reading in any situation. And normally when I would have gone to one of the previously mentioned diehards, right, in the inner circle, I wanted to turn to this deck when I was upset and frustrated. Any type of emotion where I would normally want to turn to something else, I felt comfortable turning to this deck. Just beautiful. The art is by Will Worthington. So yes, we have the Druidcraft. I could sit here and show you the whole deck, as you all know. Oh, here's another good one to end on for more of a sparse card. Gorgeous. I just love it. Okay. Two more. The next one that really surprised me, and because I had purchased it as like, oh, I'll get that to work in the fall. I'll just save it. Silly, silly, silly. It's Tarot of the Abyss by Oniturian. This is published by US Games. I had followed her on Instagram, just watching the art and the process of it all. And I knew I really wanted to get this deck, so I pre-ordered it. And I was a little worried just because this is my first black and white deck. And I don't know if it's just this artwork in particular, but I don't know why I was worried. I almost feel like this deck is as detailed and as deep as Shadowscapes, just in black and white. Sort of feel that fantasy world feeling with a lot of the cards, but then also some of them feel so present Oh, just so many of these I really love. My birth card is the Tower, and this deck just really, oh, look at that. Stunning. I love it. So, yes, originally got this deck to work with it in the fall because I felt, ooh, black and white, that's perfect. That's fall going into winter. No, I got this deck in the middle of last summer, I'm pretty sure. And upon unboxing it, I thought, oh, I'll unbox it, I'll make a video, and then I'll put it away. No, I kept it out, and I've been using it ever since, and I haven't put it away. It just really surprised me. And I think, as silly as it might sound, I've had several, dare I say, humbling readings with this deck, and I think it was readings like that that just made me appreciate it even more. Where it was just like, no, get off your pedestal with me. Don't get angsty. Just breathe. And I love it. And I really feel like this deck can be used for anyone, in any situation, for any type of reading. And that is why I'm mentioning it. Tarot of the Abyss. Okay, last but not least, can you guess what it's going to be? I know you know. Yes, you're right. It's The Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. This is published by Llewellyn. This is another one that I purchased for the fall time. No, what a fool. I love it. I love it so much. I know you guys know that. Oh, sorry, I'm like losing cards or blowing away. I thought, oh yeah, vampires, it's all dark. That's perfect for fall. I'll totally work with it. It'll be great. Nope, I started early. After I got it, I couldn't put it down. I haven't put it down since. But now that I know it very well, I really feel like it can be used year-round. If you're into vampires and you like the art, use it. Use it year-round. Don't stifle it to a season just because you think, oh, vampires, Halloween. No. That is not it for this deck, and this deck has a lot to say. And it will not be stifled. And I really feel like this deck has become more of a friend, definitely within the inner circle now, right? I just think it's so gorgeous, very deep. It can be caring and nurturing, but it can also be that, what are you doing? Open your eyes. And I love that. I can be stubborn sometimes, and so I like it when a deck pushes me out of being so stubborn, or reminds me. Like, I need a lot of reminders. So this deck does not forget and enjoys reminding me, but I love it. Okay, a couple more. I'll do this last one because this is just so dramatic, but I love it. All right, Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels, published by Llewellyn. And this is the last deck that I have to share. Don't get me wrong, I have several other decks in my collection that I could use year-round. Namely, one that I didn't share, but I'd still like to mention, is the Oak, Ash, and Thorn. I really do use that deck year-round. Does it feel like a particular season to me? Sometimes yes, sometimes it does feel like end of summer going into fall, but when you really look at that deck, a lot of different seasons are represented in it, and you can use it year-round. Why didn't I grab it for this deck? For whatever, or for this video, for whatever reason, I really felt like the Animal Totem and the Crow sort of covered that animal for the year. But I do really love that deck. It's just a favorite, really a favorite. But this wasn't about that. This wasn't about favorites only, right? And another one that I could have mentioned that I do really like to use year round is the Star Child Tarot. I really do like to use that one year round. But compared to some of these others, I really use a lot of these ones a lot more year round. So this is sort of my also starting for the year, continuing on with just whatever I want to work with, whatever's speaking to me, whatever wants to be worked with, and then also just whatever I'm feeling, because spending last year with the Druidcraft, Tarot of the Abyss, and Tarot Vampires was a wonderful way to spend my year, peppered in with other decks from my collection that I just wanted to use at the time. And I really enjoyed that flexibility and not being so formal with it. Walking up to an area where I keep some decks, I keep some, they're all over the place. I'm not very organized, but thinking to myself, oh, I can only pick from these ones right now, but I really want to use, no. So I'm just not going to do that this year, and I'm glad that last year went the way that it did, and it sort of opened the window into a larger door to be able to do this year. So I'm pretty excited, and I would love to see in the comments below any decks that you have that's, you know, a die-hard deck, a deck that's in the inner circle. I love seeing different decks and looking them up too. So, alrighty, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.